I had another vision just now. I saw a lake shaped like eyeglasses. This is Legendary Adventures, a Legend of Zelda playthrough podcast. This week we're getting a secret item, making some trades, unlocking the power of fall, and venturing into Unicorn's Cave. Just east of Horon Village is a windmill. Normally the windmill man is alone next to the windmill. This time I notice someone with him. It's a biologist from Labrina. This young biologist gives us a secret for Troy. I don't know that I ever mentioned Troy in my playthrough of Oracle of Ages. He lives in Lina City in the present, and he gives the player hints on various creatures, mostly monsters, found in the game. Since the defeat of Varen, he has relocated to Rolling Ridge. He's specifically on the east side of the mountain inside the minecart game. We have to complete the game in order for him to give us his prize for the secret. There's a new layout for the rupees that we have to shoot in order to win the game. It took me a couple of tries, but I got it, and he awards us with a Bomb Chew. We also get the secret for unlocking Bomb Chews in Oracle of Seasons. We get them by sharing Troy's secret with Furore inside the Maku tree. Throughout my playthrough, I kept running into characters who were obviously part of a trading quest. A man who wanted a bird for a cuckoo clock, Guru wanting grease for his windmill, a man wanting a fish to coax a cat from a tree, and a whole host of others. I kept finding these people seeking the items, just not the person who kicked off the whole sequence. That is until I reached this portion of the game. After getting some rings of praise, I noticed a path south of Vasu Jewelers that I had never taken. Following this path, I found a mystical sea tree, unlocking fast travel to Horon Village, and the home of Mr. Wright. He's a returning character from Link's Awakening. He originally appeared in the Super Nintendo port of SimCity and is named for SimCity creator Will Wright. I am aware that the Zelda Encyclopedia published by Dark Horse Comics identifies this version of Mr. Wright here in Oracle of Seasons as Dr. Left. Mr. Wright will appear again under the name of Dr. Left in the Minish Cap, but searching through a text dump of Oracle of Seasons reveals that name, Dr. Left, does not appear anywhere in this game. And other supplementary materials for Oracle of Seasons I was able to track down either do not mention him or do not name him. The Nintendo Power Strategy Guide identifies him as a historian, but the game itself refers to him as a biologist. This is just a long way of saying, I'm going to continue to call him Mr. Wright, even if others choose to call him Dr. Left. In this game, Mr. Wright is trying to read his many books, but he complains that the light in his room is too dim. We use an ember seed to light a torch next to him, and he gives us a book on caring for chickens called the Cuckoo Dex in return. To the north of Horon Village, there are two lakes. The one on the west goes unnamed in the game. The one on the east is Eyeglass Lake. You remember we visited Eyeglass Lake briefly in the last episode. Just to the north of Eyeglass Lake, there's a home inside a tree. This is the home of Malin and Talon returning from Ocarina of Time. As we saw in the last episode, Talon is on Mount Cuckoo sleeping in a cave. Malin says she's been left to care for their hens, but she doesn't feel up to the task. Malin notices the Cuckoo Dex and asks if she can have it, saying it will be a big help. She gives us a Lon Lon egg in exchange. Maple the Witch is looking for a Lon Lon egg. When we literally run into her again, she quickly gets over her anger when she sees the egg. After all, Lon Lon eggs are all the rage among the girls right now. She gives Link her ghastly doll in exchange. To the east of Spool Swamp is the Holodrum Plain, and on the southern point of the plain is Mrs. Rule's villa. Her villa has a pool of water inside, but she complains of intense heat. She says she needs something to send a chill down her spine. The ghastly doll that we got from Maple is just the thing. She takes it from us in exchange for a well-seasoned iron pot. I went ahead and paused my trades here. Between each dungeon, I made a point of visiting the home of Blossom and Bippin. I kept trying to further their quest, but I had no success, that is until this visit. Just as I was starting the trades, I finally managed to get their son, who I named Stem, to speak to me. He recognizes Link and introduces himself without saying anything else. I left their home and completed the trades before returning. The entire family had then moved to the other side of the home near Bippin's planter. When I again managed to speak to Stem, he asked, "Are you strong?" I said yes. Stem then said he would be strong too. I then talked to Blossom. She notes that Stem is very shy and asked what Link was like as a child. I said no to a choice of energetic, but yes to the choice of quiet. To the west of Sunken City, there is a fort. We passed by it on the way to get to the city, and the occupant of that fort is clear, Great Moblin. He stands on the walls facing the city and declares that this time he will be victorious against us. There are large turrets along the wall which shoot large bombs onto the ground below. I could not remember how to take down this fort, so I first attempted to pick up these bombs and throw them back, but no dice. I then decided to see if my new bomb shoes would help at all. I never had bomb shoes in my past playthrough of the game, so I knew that this would not be a requirement, but I did want to see what happened. The bomb shoe explodes ineffectively on Great Moblin. They will, however, destroy the turrets. I decided to circle around the fort. I used Dimitri in order to navigate the water that surrounds the west side of the fort. If players have one of the other animal buddies, the other side of the fort will be on land. Consistent across all the games is the south side of the fort. There's a pool of water there which requires the flippers to reach a staircase leading inside. Inside the fort, we face Great Moblin in a boss fight. It is essentially the same as the fight against Great Moblin that we saw in Oracle of Ages. The only difference is that this one is easier. We only face Great Moblin himself. The smaller Moblins who threw bombs into the arena in Oracle of Ages are absent. Great Moblin throws a large bomb which we can pick up and throw back to deal damage. After hitting him enough times, Great Moblin turns gray, but he says he cannot be defeated unless his bomb falls behind him and destroys his stock. I returned one more bomb to him, and that's exactly what happened. The entire stock of bombs explodes, destroying the fort, and Great Moblin flees. A piece of heart is found inside a treasure chest. Okay, that's enough side questing. Let's get back to the main quest. I traveled back to Eyeglass Lake and took the portal that's on the eastern island to Subrosia. I explored the lava lake in the southern area of this section of Subrosia last episode. There I found a bomb flower, but I wasn't sure what I was supposed to use it for. At the furnace in this area, we're told that workers are away at the temple collecting ore. I hadn't thought much about that comment at first, but this time it clicked with me. It's pointing us where to go. I went to the temple, and using Rock's Feather, I was able to jump over a river of lava to find a couple of Subrosians outside the Fall Tower. One Subrosian with a bandana on his head notices our bomb flower and uses it to clear the entrance in front of the tower. He and his associate return to the furnaces. We head up the tower to get the power of Fall from the Fall Spirit. It's at this point that I realized I could have received the power of Fall early and changed up the dungeon order. I ended up sticking to the intended order of this game, but I came very close to stumbling upon an alternate one. While in Subrosia, I took some time to explore. I checked the market again and found it has a bomb bag upgrade in stock. We trade ore and bombs to get it. It grants Link the ability to carry 30 bombs. Nice! I also bought a member's card for the shop in Horon. It was only 5 ore chunks. Extra nice. Returning to the surface at Eyeglass Lake, we can travel north. There is a cave with large stalagmites pushing out of the top just north of the lake. The entrance is normally blocked by stone mushrooms. These mushrooms will become organic in the fall, and we can pick them. Using our new powers, we change the season to fall, we pick the mushrooms, and we head inside the dungeon. This is Unicorn's Cave. The music gives off sort of a military march vibe to me. It features a rising and falling melody, a percussion line that evokes the feeling of a snare drum, and the whole piece lasts about 30 seconds before looping over again. This dungeon spans only a single floor. It's in the shape of a unicorn's head. The dungeon is roughly split into 2 parts. The first part of the dungeon mostly happens at the back of the head and the neck, the mane. We move towards the front of the head and the snout and horn in the second part. The horn is the ultimate goal. When I first started making my way through this dungeon, I felt like I was wandering for a long time. There are multiple forking paths that we are presented with, but I ended up going exactly the way that we needed to, just by chance. From the entrance, I headed east and found a minecart. I traveled north on the tracks to get a key, then backtracked and used a rail switch to take the tracks east. This takes us to a room divided by a row of blocks and a large hole which we have no way to cross, at least for now. We note that there is a large cylinder marked with an S next to the hole. There is a set of stairs leading down to a side-scrolling area. There's another fork in the road within this area. An easily accessible ladder can take us up, or we can bomb our way through some blocks and push further to the left. The optimal path sees us going up the ladder first. We'll find the map in a room just above the unicorn's eye, and the dungeon item in the northmost point of the main. It's as far north and west as we can go. It's the magnetic glove. The glove is a clever new item not seen in any previous Zelda game, and this dungeon does an excellent job of introducing it and showing off the mechanics of it. The glove switches polarity each time we use it. We can use it to pull objects of opposite polarity towards us, or if those objects are anchored to the ground, we will be pulled to them. Objects of the same polarity will be repelled from us, or again we can push ourselves away from objects of the same polarity, as long as they're anchored to the ground. In a 2004 interview with Nintendo Dream Magazine, director Hidemaru Fujibayashi talked a bit about how he came up with new items. He said, "I like to imagine things that appear in fairy tales, or items used in scientific experiments." In that same interview, Zelda team head Eiji Aonuma praised the magnetic glove. "The magnetic glove is awesome, isn't it?" he said. "You couldn't do that in a 3D game." Fujibayashi responded saying, "I have a stubborn attachment to 2D games, and I was trying to think of an item that you couldn't use in a 3D game. If I could make that, I thought, the 3D Zelda teams would surely be jealous," he said with a laugh. We test out this item as soon as we get it by moving a large steel ball marked with an N onto a floor switch to open the door and exit the room. We return to the side-scrolling area and take the other fork to the left. This takes us down through the neck of the unicorn and other points of the main. We have to solve a couple of puzzles involving Armos statues. The first sees us moving two linked Armos. We have to push the one to position the other onto a floor switch. It's clever, but it's also slightly awkward since we can't really see both statues at once due to the large size of the room. In the middle point of the main, we find a puzzle requiring us to remember the order in which we defeat 4 living Armos statues. After all 4 are defeated, 4 treasure chests appear, and we must open the chests in the same order that we defeated the statues in to get the key. The path forward takes us south. We can duck into the lowest point of the main to get the compass. At the furthest point south, we can use the magnetic glove and a cylinder marked with an S to cross a hole, and get another key before looping back to the start of the dungeon. In the minecart room, I took the cart on the left. Taking the tracks west takes us to a room with a rotating disc marked with an S in the center of a hole. We need to attract ourselves to the disc, then quickly switch polarity after we've rotated to the right point in order to cross the hole and claim another key. Very clever. We backtrack and we take this cart on the left to the north to reach a raised area which we can use to cross to the east. We push a block which makes a steel ball appear in an area that we can see but not reach. We have to loop back around and make our way to that point of the dungeon. So we backtrack through the neck, through the side-scrolling area, and back to the room where we saw that very first cylinder marked with an S. We use the magnetic gloves to cross a gap, and head through a locked door to reach the mini-boss. The mini-boss is a large saber-toothed tiger. It attacks us by rolling into a ball. Its teeth form spikes that then stick out. We need to hit an orb on the end of the tiger's tail to deal damage. Which side of the body the tail is on will change after each roll. Once defeated, we get a fairy and a portal that we can take back to the entrance. We head up through the nose of the unicorn and loop back west to move a steel ball into a position where we can access it. We then pass through a locked door on the west side of the room in order to place that steel ball we made appear earlier by pushing the block onto a floor switch. We then use the steel ball that we moved after passing through the nose to get by a flamethrower trap and to reach another side-scrolling area. In this area, we need to jump over conveyor belt platforms to reach the boss key. A staircase in the room just above the mini-boss room leads to a side-scrolling area. We use the magnetic glove to reach moving platforms. We then use the magnetic gloves to attract and repel ourselves from pillars to cross a room and reach the boss door. The boss here is Digdogger. It's yet another reimagined Zelda 1 boss. In the original game, we used the flute to cause Digdogger to shrink and then deal it damage. Here we need to use the magnetic glove to pull a spiked ball from a pillar, and then we attract and repel the spiked ball to hit Digdogger. After it takes enough damage, it breaks apart into several smaller versions of itself. These we can hit with the sword to destroy. After a moment, the small Digdogger enemies reform into the giant Digdogger boss. I had to break the giant Digdogger 3 times and destroy as many of the smaller ones as I could in order to win. Once the boss falls, we get a heart container and the next essence. It's the Nurturing Warmth. We're told this essence builds strong saplings through balmy days. As soon as we exit the dungeon, the Maku tree contacts us and points us to the ruins as the location of the next essence. Meanwhile, in their lair, the Gerudo witches Kotaki and Kuumi, also known as Twinrova, are celebrating. The flame of destruction lights. The lands rot from the chaos created by the wildly changing seasons. Only the flame of despair remains. That the witches are trying to light 3 flames seems to be an obvious holdover of the original plan for 3 linked games. As we know, that 3rd game was cancelled. I wondered how they would handle the lighting of the 3rd flame, and now we have our answer. It lights here, roughly midway through the linked game, because it needs to light sometime. Next week we'll travel to Tarm Ruins. If you want to follow along, please consider subscribing. And a big thank you to everyone who subscribed already and is following along with this season. I truly appreciate you. I am Paul Riley, and I will see you next week.